Hi, I'm Dr. Cynthia Miller, and I want to discuss a little bit about what's happening right now. We're at this amazing point in history where we can choose to evolve into a whole new reality, choose to evolve our bodies into a new human, and choose to evolve this external reality that we live in. Or we can choose fear. And however this evolves, however this manifests, depends upon each one of us and what each one of us chooses. So I want to go into a little bit about how the brain works. So Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung both spoke about the collective conscious and then the collective unconscious. And we also have a personal unconscious and a personal consciousness. So if we take those two theories and bring them into Bruce Lipton's work of the neural impulses in our brain. So we have 40 million neural impulses per second in the unconscious, and we have 40 neural impulses in the conscious. So the unconscious is clearly what is in charge of our lives. But what's in the unconscious? So our collective unconscious has been building since the beginning of humanity. And this is hidden deep within, beneath our conscious thinking, but it's influencing every part of our lives and how we react. So the collective unconscious is layers and layers and layers of war and strife and struggle and poverty and starvation. Just recently, it would be layers of apartheid, Auschwitz, nuclear warfare, bombings of Japan. All these things are in our collective unconscious. So we have these 40 million nerve impulses per second that are coming up through all these layers of fear, all these layers of discord and terror. Add in on top of that domestic violence and sexual abuse, and add up on top of that we have pollution, so all of our, or a lot of our food is not healthy, and our air hasn't been healthy. So there's just all these layers that have been accumulating in the collective unconscious that are influencing everyone's lives. But what I've discovered is we can cut off ourselves. We can build like a tube or a wall. We can build a boundary with our own collective unconscious and decide, okay, I'm going to just deal with my own unconscious and let go of all of the others. And what happens is if you do this, you can clear out your own unconscious. If you're working with this collective unconscious of humanity that's been building for eons, man, you're just a little drop in the bucket and you aren't going to make any difference. So you build up your own boundaries, internal boundaries. And then you start looking at your collective unconscious that's within you. So this is the lineage that's been passed down through your DNA. So it's a manageable piece compared to this huge expanse or ocean of the collective unconscious. So as you start looking at your own unconscious, most therapies that deal with this are working on the third dimension. And what happens is all of the trauma, all of this collective trauma is stored in this unconscious. But I've discovered it doesn't exist on the third dimension. This is a fourth dimensional pattern. It's a fourth dimensional frequency. It's unseen up in the fourth dimension. So if we're trying to deal with this with 3D technology, it doesn't work. But if you move up to the fourth dimensional frequency and start clearing your unconscious, it's an amazing process of how this works. And as you clear your own unconscious, what you'll discover is you start having more new neural impulses, new neural connections in your brain. When this started, to me it looked like the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights. It was these incredible lights of these magnificent colors connecting new parts of my brain, allowing new thoughts to arise. So as you clear out your unconscious, there are these 40 million nerve impulses per second coming up. Well, more of those come up to your consciousness because they aren't going through so many layers of humanity's trauma. So this is very exciting news. And as you keep going in deeper, you can start to explore this matrix, this 3D matrix of fear that we're connected into. And you can start unplugging from that 3D matrix and plugging into who you really are. So as tiny children, the way we evolve, the way our brain works, is from birth up to the first 6 or 7 years. Again, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, our brain doesn't have the capacity to differentiate. We have no idea of knowing what's good for us or what's harmful. Everything in our environment gets wired in when we're children. So we're like a sponge. So our entire nervous system is programmed before we have the ability to differentiate who I am from everything that's going on outside of ourselves. And what happens is, so you take on everybody else's thoughts, everybody else's patterns, everybody else's programs of who you should be, of how you should think. And so there are all these conflicting messages inside. But we're at this amazing time where we can choose to connect to our own inner mastery blueprint. This is the blueprint of who we are. This is your essence, your soul essence blueprint. And as you connect to this new blueprint of you, you're unplugging from all these divergent things that are telling you who you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to behave, and what's supposed to happen. And all of this gets coded and passed down through your DNA. So as you unplug your DNA from all these different sources and start connecting your own DNA into this mastery blueprint of who you are, your whole life starts to radically transform. You get connected with your own purpose. You get connected with your essence. Hidden gifts start to come out to be seen. Things that other people thought were wrong about you are actually what's really right about you. So this is an incredibly exciting time and really challenging time to navigate all of these changes that are taking place. So I hear a lot of people talking about moving from 3D to 5D, which is great, but I don't hear many people talking about the fourth dimension. So this discovery I've made of the fourth dimension being this whole unconscious is key, because when we're moving into the fifth dimension, all the old trauma, all the old paradigm, this old war, this old patterns can't make it. They don't exist in this fifth dimension, which is based on love. And this old paradigm, which is in the midst of its death, is all based on fear. So in our bodies, we can be in fear, or we can be in a higher frequency of love or gratitude, thankfulness, whatever words you want to put to those higher frequencies. And what happens is, when fear is triggered in your brain goes into a state of fight, flight, or freeze. In fight, you're making everybody else wrong. Everybody else has to change. It's everybody else's problem. In flight, you just want to forget about everything. In freeze, your whole body just shuts down. So when you're in this fear modality, the way your brain works is the higher regions of your brain aren't getting those little 40 nerve impulses per second. It's all going to your ancient reptilian brain to keep you alive. It's basic survival. When you're in basic survival, you can't think of new, wondrous alternatives because that part of your brain isn't getting triggered. So imagine what happens when you start clearing out your unconscious, so that more of these 40 million nerve impulses make it all the way up to consciousness. And when you're not in a state of fear, but you're in a state of love, so those 40 or however many are actually working on your newer parts of your brain, the neocortex, and all the parts that are open to receiving information, open to new ideas. From this expanded state, we have the ability to create something new, something that hasn't been here before. It's a very exciting time. And as I said, it's challenging. Every day we're getting triggered. Every moment there's all these different levels of things that are happening. But I invite you to connect with your mastery blueprint. Start bringing your DNA and connecting it into your own mastery blueprint. Start bringing your consciousness up. Start living in more and more love. When things get triggered, give thanks. I know it seems counterintuitive to give thanks to the bad stuff that's happening, but when you do, it starts to shift the energy. Fear is a very low frequency, and gratitude is a high frequency. When you bring this high frequency down to the low frequency, it starts to break it up. Fear cannot exist in the high frequency of love. As fear is broken up, it starts to move at a whole different level. So you might feel sad, you might get angry, you might get pissed off, anything might happen, but you're starting to move at higher and higher levels. And then as you get up higher, you start to give more and more thanks. And this whole wave that we're riding starts to get to be an incredible journey. So, have fun. Enjoy this amazing ride that we're on. I'm Dr. Cynthia Miller. So follow me on Instagram. Follow me on YouTube. I have a lot more to say in the upcoming videos. Take care. Lots of love.